Welcome to MacroCode. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. So in today's video, we are going to talk about using AutoMapper in ASP.NET Core and actually see some of the problems that we solve using AutoMapper in some of our projects in ASP.NET Core applications. So we'll paste the link down below. If you want to access the source code, you can access it via our GitHub channel. So to start with, we are going to create a simple project. But first, think fast. What problem are we solving using AutoMapper? So to maintain a separation of concern between various layers in ASP.NET Core applications, it is actually advisable to have different models and data transfer objects that are associated with a specific layer. So we are going to see this and actually demonstrate how we are going to use this and solve some of the problems in our day-to-day projects. So let's create a simple project. So I'm going to create an ASP.NET Core Web App MVC. So I'm going to call this a sample AutoMapper project. So let's just call it sample AutoMapper. So then next, so I'm going to create a simple, we are using .NET 7. Then we can configure for HTTPS. Then I'm going to create our project. So consider subscribing and watching some of our previous videos. So these are our simple projects. So our project has created. So we have the controllers, and we have the models, and we have the views folder and our program.cs file. So if we just launch this project, these are sample project that you have just created. So let's just see. So there you are. You can see these are simple projects, sample AutoMapper, and this is our projects that we have just created. So I'm going to create a model called student. So I'm going to create a model called student. So let's just create a model here called student. So on a student model, we can have some. So we can have this as our primary key. So then we can also have string. Then we can call that first name. Can call this first name. Then you can call that. So you can call this actually string. Then middle name. So let me just zoom this so that it's a bit clear. So you can also have last name. Then you can also have can even have email address. So I think this is fine for us to use this. So I want us to install a nugget. So actually, what is AutoMapper? So AutoMapper is an object-to-object convention-based mapping library that does not need too much configuration. So in simple terms, it is a tool that transforms an object of type one type to another object type. So let's try to install AutoMapper. So right click on our project, then manage nuggets. Then on browse, here we can say search for AutoMapper. So I want us to install AutoMapper extension Microsoft dependency injection. So install this one. So if we install that, I think we should be fine. So the next thing that we need to do is to create our DTO. So that is the data transfer object. So we have created our model, which is the student, and we need to create our data transfer object. So let's create a student's DTO. So I'm going to create a student. So I'll call this student, then call it DTO. So that is student DTO. So on our DTO, I only need these columns. So I need the first name, middle name, last name, and the email address. So I'll just paste this here. So that is our DTO. So we now need to create a mapping profile. So what is a mapping profile? So mapping profiles allows you to group mapping configurations. It's actually a better way to organize your mapping is by using a mapping profile. So to create a mapping profiles, we can actually create a folder on our project. Then we can call these mappings. Then we can call the mapping as let's call it mapping profile. Call mapping profile. Then if we add that class, then we should actually inherit this from profile. So this should be profile. So if we do that, we should be using AutoMapper. You can see, you can actually import this. So on our mapping profile, then we need to create a map, create map, say map. So, but before that, we need to have a constructor. So we'll say public, then we do that. So inside our constructor here, we need now to create our map. So we can actually now create a map of, so you can say student, then you can have our student DTO. Then you can do that. Then you can also say, we can actually map it we can do reverse map. So you can actually convert the data from student to student DTO and from student DTO to a student. So let's create a controller called a student's controller. So I'm going to create a controller. So I'm going to create just an empty controller. Then I'm going to call this student controller. Student controller. So this is my controller. So the next thing that I need to do here, I want to borrow, so I can say private, read only, then IMapper. So you can say IMapper, then I'll do mapper. Then I'll need, so before that, I'll need my constructor here. So then I can do that. So inside the student's controller, then I can have here IMapper, then I can say mapper, then here I can assign my mapper that way. So let me do away with this, or I can actually modify this. So you can call this HTTP get. So we can also create these create, then you can call these HTTP post. Then here you can actually say variable model. So model is equals to new student DTO. So if we do that, then we can say return view, then we return with the model. Then here we are expecting a student DTO, then you can call this model. So then here we are going to say IMapper dot. So we need now to map the data that we will receive from student DTO to our student model. So how are we going to do that? So we'll say IMapper, or we can say variable student, can call this student details equal to, so IMapper dot map, then you are now saying student DTO. So you can now map here student. So you will call this student. Then we are going to map. So this should be this way. This should be this way. Then we do this, then we say model. So we want to convert the data, we want to map the data from the model to our student model. So, and we can return maybe the view with our student data. Actually, you can, yeah, that's fine. So the next thing that I want us to do is to create a view. So let's create a view, and so let's create a folder here called student. Then I want us to create a razor page. So an empty one. Then you can call these create. So if we do that, so we'll have an empty razor page. So you can actually do some small. So let me just do some small thing here. So let's do away with this code. Then here, let's do div class row. Then we can say, so what we also need here is we need to have, so I can say at, so we need to have our model. So we are going to use the model that the student DTO, so within our view. So how are we going? So I want us to create something very simple so that we see how you can transfer the data from your model. Let's say model students. So we'll say model student DTO. So we are going to use student DTO in our model, so in our view. So let's create that. Then we can say div say class. Can say, so we can do md12. Then we can also close this. Then inside here we can actually do a form. Then we say method, call this post. Then you can say type, then multiple form data. Then we can close this form. So inside our form, I want us to have some inputs. So one of the inputs, so we'll call, so we can do div class. So you can do div class, then you'll say form group. So you can say form group. Then you can do that. Then you can actually say label. Then sp4. Can say first name. Then you can close this. You can also do something here. You can say input. Then sp4 first name. Then we can have this a class here. We say form control. Then you can close this. So you can actually now copy this. We have it here. We have it here. So we replicate this. So we can have middle name. So then you can have last name. Then we can even have here now email address. So we have developed a form that we are going to use now to demonstrate AutoMapper. So you can see we are using our student DTO. So if I just launch our app now, let's see what will happen. So it has gone to our home, but remember we have created a student controller. So we have the student, so we'll say student here. So I'll just put in the URL, then create. So something wrong there, yes. So we have not done something. So we need to have our services. So come to our program.cs file here. Then we need to have something here. Build services dot add AutoMapper, then we say type of, then we say program. So if we do that, then we close this. So we need to add, so we'll say builder.services.add AutoMapper type of. So if we run this, then we say students, then create. So you can see we have some of the fields here. So let's try to, so there is something that we need to do. So on our controller, on our create, we need to add a button. So let's say we have a button here. So we'll say button type, then submit, then we say class, say btn primary, then we can close these, we can click submit. So these are buttons. I want us to see how we are able to map the data. So let's hit our breakpoint on our controller here. So let's do again student create. So you can see we have first name, middle name, last name, and the email address. So if we hit here, we should be able to see what the data we are received from. So you can say James Kimani Mbugwa. So backend coders at Gmail. So if we hit submit, so you'll be able to see that our model will come with some data. You see email, first name. So let me just zoom it so that you're able to see it. So we have the email, first name, last name, and middle name. But you can see we are getting this from student DTO. So if we just go into here, you'll see our model is still having the data. So if we proceed, what has happened now? So on our student details, you can see our student detail, our data from student DTO has been mapped to student. So as you can see, we have the email address, first name, ID is 0 because we didn't have an ID on our student DTO. Last name is that, and the first name is that. So as you can see, we have our student DTO here. So we don't have the ID, but on our student details, we have an ID. So the data from the student DTO has been transferred to our student model. So that is majorly what actually AutoMapper does. So it is an object-to-object mapper. So we have actually mapped some of the data from our So that is actually what AutoMapper does. So we have actually mapped some of our data from our student DTO to our students. So AutoMapper is a convention-based mapping, which means that the properties have to match so that the library can map them for you. So assuming we change something on our students, so we have these as student names, these as first names. So we add some S's here. So these names on our student DTO should actually be the same with our student model. So if we try now, so we have some errors on our create. So these one should be, so we are adding some S's here. So that way can do this way. So we are adding some. So if we try now, because the names are not matching with our student model, then we should not be able to have the data. So the data will not be transferred from our. So we can say James Karanja Mwangi, then backend at gmail.com. So if we submit, we can see that on our model we will have the data. So, but when we map it, we will actually be missing the records. You can see we don't have anything on our students details, because on our student model, the names, the fields are not similar with what is on our student DTO. So for you to use AutoMapper, ensure that you have the same names on our DTO with what is on your model, so that these will actually work. So let me just return this back so that we proceed with our examples. So I think that is one of the things that you need to understand. So assuming we want now to map, so you can actually specifically map. So if we come to our student model, let's say we add something called we can add something called full name. So let's add something called full name. So on our student, or you can say username, let's call username. So if we do username, so if we come to our mapping profile, we can do something here. So if we remove this, auto reverse profile, reverse map, so you can say for member. So for member, that is for specific property name. So you can say, so let me just do that. Then we say user, then we say user dot, we say user dot username, or we say first name. We say first name. So this will be first name will be mapped to. So will be mapped to. So let's say this one. Then we say source will be source dot map from. Let's see what it will do. Then we say source equals to source dot username. So if we do that, so you should actually do this way. Destination, which is the destination, source and destination. So if we do that, username, we can add something here called, so here you can call these on our DTO, we can call these full name. So full name, we can say equals to, so our full name will be, so our full name will be, so you can say first name, then you can do, so this is our full name, then we will do middle name, then you can do last name. So that will be our full name. So it will be taking the last name and the middle name. So this full name, we want to assign these to our, we assign these, so we will assign the full name. So we'll assign the username. The username should get the data from our full name. So let's see what will happen. So we can close this. Then we can try to run our application. We see what will happen. So our username on our student model should be mapped to, open this students create. So let's have our first name, then you can have our email. So if we submit, our student DTO will have email address, first name, full name. So you can see the full name is a combination of our first name, middle name, and the last name. Then we have our last name and the middle name. So let's see what will happen. So on our student DTO, if we open it, you'll see that the email address is that. Then the first name is James, ID is that, last name, middle name, and the username. So our full name on student DTO has been mapped to our username in our student model. So you can actually do a property to property mapping within the profile. So what you have done here, so you can actually map it. So this is our source and this is our destination, and this is what has happened. So I think that is how you use AutoMapper in ASP.NET Core. So you can actually now have the reverse mapping. So after you've done that, you can include what we had included previously called reverse map. So it will actually do a complete opposite. So it will actually take the data from either the student and map it back to our student DTO. So that is how you use AutoMapper. So in summary, we have learned how to use AutoMapper, the problem it solves, and how to implement AutoMapper in ASP.NET Core application with ease. So this is a simple demonstration on how to use AutoMapper. So if you have any comment down below, and like our video, and even subscribe to our channel. So see you in our next video. Bye.